Previous hour, South Africa's greatest bowlers, past and present, is a compilation of profiles of the country's best post-World War II performers. The Proteas have a legacy of attack that has been foundational for the likes of Kagiso, Rabada and Vernon, Philander, who are currently in the world's top 10 test bowling rankings. This book is the third installment of its kind, following on from books looking at the best all-rounders and the best batsmen from the country. Co-author Dr Ali Bacher joins me now. A very good morning. Welcome to Morning Live.
My pleasure.
Okay, so it's interesting how you guys actually put this together, but you do state right up front that it's post-World War II, but you make a special mention of a couple of people. Tell us how you decided on these players that made up this book.
Well, I think the first thing is South African cricket before 1950. I mean, our first test match was in 1889. We were pretty much an indifferent test team, beaten regularly by England and Australia. It changed in the 50s. Why did it change? Because in the history of world cricket, when you've got good fast bowlers, generally speaking, you dominate world cricket. I mean, there are exceptions, Shane Warne, for example, but generally it's about fast bowlers. And what happened in the 50s? For the first time, we had two lively, great fast bowlers, Neil Adcock and Peter Heine, and we became successful. And since then, even up to today, with Kagiso, Rabada and Vernon, Philander, every decade we've just produced terrific fast bowlers, Peter Pollock, Sean Pollock, Mike Proctor, Mackay and Teeny. They just keep them coming every decade, and because of that, we have remained a very powerful force in world cricket. There's one exception, however, a spin bowler by the name of Hugh Tayfield. He was there in the 50s, and he's probably one of the greatest off-spin bowlers the world's ever seen. 37 tests, 170 test wickets. And in 1952-53, we went to Australia, and it was regarded as such a poor team that Louis Duffus, who was the doyen of cricket writers in this country, said, look, let's cancel the tour. We're going to get annihilated. Yeah. And we went to Australia, and he got 30 test wickets. In fact, in the second test match in Melbourne, he got 13 test wickets. So he's been an extraordinary spin bowler, pretty unique in the history of South African cricket.
It's quite interesting that you guys actually start off the book with Tayfield, and you explain his story and also how he made a rather damp debut for the Proteas, and was really with the guidance of the captain at the time, Jack Cheetham, that kind of transformed him to become this really great and gave him the platform to become this really great bowler that we then were able to see for South Africa. Do you think it's really important that you tell this other side of the story, the other people that impacted on the careers of your bowlers in this book, to really appreciate their story?
I started to play first-class cricket when I was 18 for Transvaal, and Peter Heine, Neil Adcock and Hugh Tayfield were at the end of their careers. But they all had one attribute. You know, it's not only about skill and talent, it's about determination, grit, desire to win. I mean, Dale Steyn's got that. He's a very competitive bowler. And that's why those three were such formidable bowlers for South Africa in the late 50s. Peter Heine was remarkable. In 1964, we played the MCC at the Wanderers, and he was 36. And we played against Ken Barrington and Mike Smith, and they scored nearly 500 runs. He bowled 41 overs, took 5 for 110. And I kept on saying to him, Peter, it's enough. He kept on saying, give me that ball. It was that determination and desire to do well that made him and the other two such great bowlers in the history of South African cricket.
What is interesting when you read this book, you do get that kind of profile of what makes such a successful bowler, because you describe Tayfield as a man of supreme confidence and self-belief. Alan Donald's chapter begins with a description capturing his mental toughness, and Vernon Philander for his metronomic discipline. So you really do get an understanding of the kind of personality that you need to be a good bowler.
But the most unique, the most extraordinary achievement is from Mackay and Teeny. About a year ago, I went to the area where he was born. He was there to the age of 14, and he'd never seen or played a game of cricket. Now, let me tell your listeners, that area is primitive. It's primitive in 2019, and that's where he grew up. And at the age of 14, we had a coach called Raymond Boy, and he went to that area to develop cricket amongst the black people. And Mackay came barefoot. He bowled 2 balls. And Raymond Boy got on the phone to Greg Hayes, who was a development coach, and said, "I found gold." And we sent him to Dale College. He couldn't speak a word of English. And he was fortunate that in the dormitory, the chap who was sharing a room with him was a white pupil who came from the farms, so he could speak Xhosa and English. And that young man taught Mackay how to speak English. 390 test wickets, an extraordinary achievement.
Actually, every single day we have a trivia question, and our trivia question is about Mackay Ntini this morning, because would you say that he is your favourite of all of the players that you profiled in this book?
No, look, if I had to pick one bowler,
Just one.
it's Dale Steyn. 2 reasons. One, he came from Palabora. He went to school in Zanin. And on Saturday night he went home, and on Sunday he played club cricket again in Zanin. And he estimates that on a weekend to play cricket, they used to travel about 300-400 kilometres every weekend to play cricket. Why do I rate him so highly? A, he was a fast bowler. Secondly, he bowled a waist swing, which generally is the best ball to bowl. And moreover, the swing was late. It didn't come from the arm. So that was very difficult. And then he learned reverse swing. But he just was an extraordinary competitor. Off the field, the nicest chap going. You put him on that field, he's at you. He wants to win, he wants to succeed. And he's got the most test wickets in the history of South African cricket. So amongst a plethora of fantastic bowlers, I would probably rate Dale Steyn, I hope the others will forgive me, as the number 1.
Well, cricket is a game that loves stats, and to be fair, he does rank right up there with the stats, not only in South Africa, but around the world. I want to speak a little bit about what's currently happening in South African cricket at the moment. A lot.
Administration, a main problem.
I mean, Thabang Maroy is their CEO. He is currently suspended on full pay, and there's an investigation underway. Have you asked what's going on?
I try to help him. I know him. He's from my old school, King Edward's. I don't put all the blame directly at him. I mean, he was young. He was given this huge responsibility to run a big organisation, and he was inexperienced. So don't blame him alone. I think the main board is accountable. I'm not so sure how many of them know actually the nuances and the finer points of the great game of cricket. I think they're a problem. I think they should be accountable for what's happening in the administration of South African cricket. And to add more to the problem, there's a huge financial problem there. They owe plenty of money. Whether they get recovers, I do not know. But there's still problems, and I think there's a movement around the country to maybe come to a situation where everybody's accountable for what is now happening in South African cricket.
Do you believe that what's happening on the field is a direct reflection of the Federation?
It's a factor, but look, we've lost 3 great cricketers. A.B. de Villiers, Hashim Amla, Dale Steyn. They retired. They're greats in the history of South African cricket. You can't replace them. So we're starting a new era. It happens to every country. You have your big moments, your dips. We down there. I'm not disillusioned. I think we still will produce some wonderful cricketers. We need to just say, listen, it's going to take us 2-3 years to rebuild, and it will come through because primarily our schools around the country, they continue to produce fantastic cricketers.
There was a fear that, there was a period of time where Cricket South Africa and the Proteas tried really hard to deny that there's an old boys club, that there is this group of players, senior players that run things. And now there is a fear with Smith as the director of cricket, or with Bacher as the coach of the team, and with Cullis as a consultant, that their old boys club is coming back to dominate and to dictate how things run.
Look, what you're saying is that it's very much the top echelon now of the management of the team is run by whites who are wonderful cricketers. You know, that's a concern even to me. You need to balance it. In South Africa in 2020, you need whites, you need blacks. You'll find top white coaches, black coaches, put them together and let them transform South African cricket.
Do you believe that we're on the right path at the moment?
We'll get there. I think there's still a lot of work to be done, but I'm mainly concerned about the overall administration at the highest level of South African cricket, that in essence you do not have people there who understand the nuances and really what should be done to run a fantastic cricket show in this country.
Dr. Ali Bacher, thank you so much for coming in to
Thank
chat to
you.
us. A recap of our question, I did mention it earlier. How many Test and ODI wickets did Makhaya and Tini take for the Proteas? You still got another hour to get involved in our sports trivia. At Morning Live SABC is our Twitter handle, and please use our hashtag Morning Live Sports Trivia.